We're jumping straight into it today here on this Wednesday recap show. Welcome to Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball, and I want to talk to you about the new look and also terribly sad Dallas Mavericks. They are, of course, down Kyrie Irving for a very long haul after the torn ACL. Anthony Davis may or may not play again this season, it sounds like. Per the latest Shams report, he is discussing with his representatives whether it's really worth trying to make a comeback this year or just sort of let it go. Derek Lively's still out. Daniel Gafford's still out. PJ Washington's still out. It's bad, ladies and gentlemen. But the good news is when a team has, how many did I just count off? 5, like the main 5 rotation guys out, unless you want to count Klay Thompson in front of one of those dudes. When you've got 5 rotation guys out, that means an entire new team gets to put up fantasy value. So let's start today's show by just talking about who the ads ended up being on the Mavericks. Now, we talked about, we were sort of, everything we do here is generally a hypothesis in some degree. After the news broke that Kyrie Irving had torn his ACL a couple days ago, we did a podcast on it the following morning. And I told you guys that I thought Naji Marshall was likely to be a play and that Max Christie was likely to play. And I think I said something like, I'm surprised that Klay Thompson wasn't in that last ball game, but it feels like he's probably going to have to be. And as it turns out, that's basically what happened. So in order of preference, and I know that Klay Thompson took 27 shots yesterday. I don't know that that's going to necessarily happen every single ball game, but in my eyes, Naji Marshall is probably the guy that I'd want on my team the most right now of all of these backup dudes. The only downside to that is who gets sort of squeezed out when I assume PJ Washington makes some kind of a comeback. I think it's probably going to be Dinwiddie, but I don't know for sure. It might be that they move Naji Marshall or Max Christie to the bench. So if that's your fear, then Klay Thompson would be your number 1 guy. Because as bad as his fantasy game has become, as he's hit this kind of very old age, aged quickly when you have multiple catastrophic injuries in a row, if Klay's out there chucking up 20 shots, he's a fantasy value. He's Cam Thomas without the free throws and more 3-pointers effectively. That's playable. So make sure Klay Thompson is on a roster. You'll be surprised at how many leagues he got dropped in. Not because he didn't deserve to be. He should have been dropped. He wasn't a guy that needed to be rostered this season, not by a long shot. And it's basically what we said at the beginning of the year. But what we also said was if either of Luka Doncic or Kyrie Irving goes down, that's when Klay Thompson gets a bump. How about everybody goes down? So Klay Thompson, add him. Second favorite, Naji Marshall, add him. Like, seriously, find room for these guys on your team. And then third favorite is Max Christie, who I like the fact that he took 16 shots. His fantasy game is a little bit more predicated on the classic, quote-unquote, 3-and-D, where he's going to get you steals. He's a guard who blocks shots, and he's going to hit some 3-pointers. But he's not going to do a lot of passing or rebounding. That's just not really his jam. I think you can probably expect more than 2 rebounds in a future game. It's just that the Bucks didn't really miss any shots in this one, so no defensive rebounds. Left a total of 30 for the entire Mavs in the whole ball game. And then if you want to move beyond those 3 guys, those are the 3 guys that I think have a real solid case to have rest of season value. Spencer Dinwiddie is the next guy I would consider. This line is a glowing, sparkling example of what I'm afraid of with Dinwiddie, in that he's an okay foul shooter. This was a weird one. He shot 1 for 4. He's typically around 80, but that's kind of a net neutral for a guard. He's not a good field goal percent guy, so that's going to drag you down. He'll get you some assists. He had 4 steals in this ballgame, but that's not really his thing either, so I think he'll probably get you about 1 steal per game. So you're really looking at more of a punt play. Punt field goal percent, punt something. And that's how Dinwiddie works his way onto rosters. And then the rest of these guys I would probably be pretty cautious with. Brandon Williams had a really nice ball game here, but I need to see that a couple of times before I move on it. Kessler Edwards is a guy who's going to see time here until PJ Washington comes back. Dwight Powell picking up a bunch of center minutes along with Olivier Maxence Prosper. I don't want either one of those guys. PJ Washington, of all of the rotation guys who's out, sounds like he's probably the closest. But it's also possible the Mavs just go into full tank mode here. So I'm going to hold PJ a little bit longer. I'm going to keep an eye on guys like Lively and Gafford should they reemerge at some point later in March. Because if any of these proven, legitimate NBA level guys comes back, they'll have a huge stretch run. Now, I welcome you to Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I am Dan Besbris. Thanks, as always, for joining us on the show. Find me on Twitter at Dan Besbris. Please take a moment to subscribe. I just gave you some great ads to start the show. If you're new, hit that subscribe button. You can like. The comments are open. I respond to every single one of them this season. Every single comment that's been posted, not replies necessarily, but new comments, I have replied to every single one this NBA season, which, yes, it's been a lot of work, and I don't know that I'm going to be able to do that every year, but it was sort of a promise I made to myself on year one. So comments are open. Like, subscribe, rate. Please, if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, throw that 5-star review on it. And check out our buddies at Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting platform. That goes a long way, friends, because there was a time when online betting was pretty weird, and it's not that time anymore. It's 2025. It's a brave new world. I'm talking about like the turn of the millennium. But you find a place that's trusted, that's the number one source for online betting this year. You stick with it, and that's our friends at Bet Online. They've got odds on everything from the NBA to college basketball, NHL, UFC, covering you with stats and more on every game, every play, and every win. So whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-timer, Bet Online is your ultimate game day companion. Bet Online. The game starts here. Let's roll back up to the top. I thought Dallas was the big news on the card yesterday, so we can, I don't want to say speed through the rest of it, but we'll move at a marginal clip, right? We can chug along at a rate that's commensurate with the number of pickups that I felt we had yesterday. What are you delaying for, Dan? Nothing. Miami lost at Cleveland. Still, there was no Tyler Hero in this ball game. No Andrew Wiggins as well. I mean, it's no Khalil Ware, on and on and on. Sadly, though, for Miami, there really isn't a super obvious replacement guy for those dudes right now. Terry Rozier was bad, straight up bad. But if someone told me he was going to play 40 minutes, I would play him every time. Because I'd say 4 out of every 5, 9 out of every 10, Rozier will put up numbers in 40 damn minutes on a basketball court. What we don't know, though, is who's going to be back for their next ball game. And so that makes everything a little bit screwy. So what I would say is, if you want to play this thing safe, which I think you should this time of year, especially if you're in a head-to-head playoffs, Adebayo is obviously a go of the guys that, and he's the only one that remains. The other 3 regulars are the guys that are out right now. Haywood Highsmith, Davion Mitchell, Duncan Robinson, Terry Rozier, and if Wiggins is out, probably Kyle Anderson. Those guys are schedule level plays, and you can attack them from different angles. Davion Mitchell being far and away the safest of them because his starting job isn't in jeopardy based on the guys that are out. The rest of the starting 5, besides Mitchell and Adebayo, those guys are all in there because somebody is hurt or sick. So Mitchell would be far and away my favorite of the schedule plays on this team. The other ones are a little bit more of a roll of the dice. On the Cavaliers side, they played everybody in this ball game, but don't be surprised if someone gets a day off in the not-too-distant future. It's to me, the way I'm looking at it is it feels a lot about who they're playing. So they got Charlotte tomorrow. Someone's sitting that ball game out. Who missed the last one? Garland? So it'll probably be Donovan Mitchell, or am I flip-flopping that? You can go back and look. Which of the 2 Cavs star guards got the most recent day off? You might see a couple guys get that one off. But then they got Milwaukee, so you could expect their guys to play. Brooklyn early next week, you might get somebody with a day off. Then Memphis and Orlando, I think they'll probably get everybody in for those ball games. So game it out. And the reason I bring that up is Ty Jerome and Max Strus become eminently streamable on those days. Not a great schedule team right now, but again, more fill-in style stuff. If you're looking at it kind of in a games cap spot, that'd be a great day to deploy Jerome and or Max Strus. Portland at Boston. And so this game was a little goofy for a number of reasons. Portland had Scoot Henderson foul out. Donovan Clingan was just bad. Denny Avdia left early with a quad injury. Well, halfway through, I guess, with a quad injury. So, the minutes didn't have a chance to shift a ton because Scoot played most of his game minutes before he fouled out, and Avdia played, I don't know, like 2/3 of his game minutes before getting hurt. The only one that really shifted was Donovan Clingan, who wasn't very good, and Jabari Walker was, so that one flipped on its head. Going forward, Anthony Simons is a play. Shaedon Sharpe is running super hot right now. It's going to end at some point, but just enjoy it while it does. Toumani Camara is also playable. He's a little bit more fringy than the other guys, but he does a lot of other stuff. And I also think that Scoot is playable. Clingan is a little bit more on the fence for me. I'm leaning towards yes with him still because when he gets those 27, 28-minute games, he puts up pretty good numbers, especially if you're punting free throws. Jabari Walker is not a guy I'm picking up. Denny Avdia is a guy, if you're in your playoffs, you probably drop him now because this is probably not he's just going to miss the off day and then come back and play again. He's probably going to miss a little bit of basketball. And then, of course, it brings into focus whether or not Jeremy Grant ever resurfaces for this team. Also a very difficult decision. If you can IL him, whatever league you might be in, go for it. But if you can't, these are guys that ultimately need to get dropped. And then on the Boston side, this is starting to play out the way that we talked about on our streaming show, which is the Celtics are in a heavy part of their schedule near the end of the season where they have a pretty good playoff spot locked up. And this is the front end of a back-to-back. Today's the back end of it, not surprisingly. So who was out for this ball game? Well, there was no Jason Tatum, so he sat it out. Kristaps Porzingis has been missing time regardless. Drew Holiday has mallet finger. Sounds gross. So you got an Al Horford start. Great. He's startable, especially when you got two big men out. You got a Luke Cornett start. It didn't go all that well for him, but typically when he starts, he's playable. You got a Sam Hauser start. Usually goes better on the three-pointer side. Jaylen Brown was not that great. And then Derek White and Peyton Pritchard carried the load. And now in the second half of the back-to-back, you're probably going to see Jason Tatum come back, but you're probably going to see Al Horford get that day off. I don't think Porzingis is ready to go anyway, but maybe he resurfaces. There's a chance you might see Jaylen Brown get the second half of the back-to-back off. You might see Derek White get that second half off. The Celtics are going to be alternating who's in and who's out, and that creates this pretty wide opening for guys like Peyton Pritchard to go huge. Not this huge, but big-ish. Sam Hauser is going to be a good three-pointer stream. Luke Cornett is going to be a decent rebounds and block stream. And you just mix and match a little bit. And then Al Horford, at least in my eyes, becomes an interesting games cap play because he's not going to play in the back-to-backs. But you're going to get this kind of, if Al Horford plays 30 minutes, you're going to get a really well-rounded 9-category line. So be ready to deploy Big Al in a games cap format, I should probably say, when you get into these back-to-back scenarios. Utah rolled out the JV squad. Just something to file in the Rolodex here. Isaiah Collier, I did warn you guys, and I've said it a few times. He belongs on a lot of rosters, but he doesn't belong on every roster because the turnovers are really high. So he's basically an 8-cat guy. 9-cat, he's been terrible. He doesn't hit three-pointers. He's mostly been assists as a specialist, and here he had a bad free throw shooting game. He's done... I hate to frame it like this, but if you're doing straight 9-cat, he's done more harm than good, even while he's putting up the big assist numbers. Because the turnovers are high, the free throw's bad, the field goal's been bad, which I would hope that'd be better for a guy who doesn't shoot the three ball. He's a punt play. Kyle Filipowski is a great play when Walker Kessler is out. Johnny Juzang had a really nice ball game here, but there's no way that I don't trust him. Sensabaugh, I don't trust any of these other guys. I mean, honestly, it's Filipowski because there's a nice 1-to-1 correlation there. This was a game where literally every Jazz who's played basketball before was out. They sat Keontae George, Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, Lauri Markkanen, John Collins, and Walker Kessler. Their top 6 players they sat for this game. This is an embarrassment. This is an embarrassment for the NBA. Utah in particular, I think, is an embarrassment to the NBA this year. They're 15-47, and they've lost a lot of those games on purpose. And I get it. Your best chance to bounce back in the NBA and build a sustainable winning franchise is to win the draft lottery and get a transcendent team-altering talent. But if you want to blow it up, you got to just blow it up, which is basically like what the Wizards did. Not that like I'm a fan of what the Wizards are doing, but the Wizards are just bad. They played all their guys this year, and they lost anyway. They didn't have to screw around. They didn't need pre-tanking. Malcolm Brogdon, he just hurt every 2 weeks. That's something that's been happening for the last 4 years. Jordan Poole played up until the last week. Now they have to tank a little bit because it's the end of the season. But fine. But the Jazz have been doing this all freaking year. They played their guys for like the first month. Utah, in my opinion, should be disciplined for the way that they utilize their roster this year. It is embarrassing. Everybody talks about how the NBA has problems or too many three-pointers, blah, 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 blah. No, my issue with the NBA is allowing teams to just, I don't really want to play our guys this year. John Collins played 38 games this season. There is no chance that you can tell me that he's only been healthy for half-ish of their games. Larry Markkanen's at 43. Kessler's at 47. Walker Kessler's what, like 24 years old? Less? Fine, Jordan Clarkson's a crusty old vet. Whatever. The only rotation guy on Utah who's cleared 50 games is Keontae George. And now he's sitting out too. By the way, they've played 62 games so far this year, if you're wondering. Jordan Clarkson's missed 30 of them. Sexton 24. Sexton 14. Excuse me. Markkanen 19. Kessler 15. Collins 24. This is bull. I got beef with the Jazz. I got beef. Over on the Wizards side, they're actually playing guy like Chris Middleton is playing. He played 25 and a half minutes. He's very much a go. Like you could even make an argument that he's a go in head-to-head leagues right now because the Wizards' schedule has been so bad that they haven't had back-to-backs, but it gets a little heavier, and then you're going to get the Middleton getting a bunch of rest days. Like they've got a back-to-back Monday, Tuesday of next week. A 3-game week out of Chris Middleton right now is not that bad. The following week, you're only getting 2 out of him. That's where things get a little bit ugly. But yeah, I mean, you can play Middleton in any format you want right now. Alex Sarr is a great play with Richaun Holmes out. His minutes went up by a bunch. And so that's good. Also playing against the team that was running non-NBA players was also quite helpful. Bub Carrington has been streamable in head-to-head lately. I still don't trust him in straight 9-cat roto. Keyshawn George is a guy I'm playing in all formats. Kid can't shoot a lick, but man, if he doesn't get other stuff. Threes, points, boards, steals, blocks. He does everything. Keep one eye on Justin Champagnie, and hopefully we see Jordan Poole again. By the way, Bilal Coulibaly, 5 defensive stats. Like this is what we were hoping for out of him, but he also can't shoot a lick. So Coulibaly, head-to-head play. Harrington, head-to-head play. Did I call him Harrington? Carrington, a head-to-head play. Sarr, more of a head-to-head guy. Certainly gets a bump up when Richaun Holmes is out. Keyshawn George, Chris Middleton, and if he comes back, Jordan Poole are the guys that I'm playing across the board. No news out of Minnesota. Mike Conley got this day off, and it didn't really change much. Everybody that's been doing stuff did stuff. Nickeil Alexander-Walker was just a schedule-level guy anyway, so the fact that this one wasn't as good shouldn't have really impacted you all that much. Charlotte, very easy team to handicap. They've got 3 guys you can use every day. LaMelo, Mark Williams, Miles Bridges. They've got 3 or 4 guys you can drop into schedule spots. And that's it. I wouldn't worry too much about it because Charlotte's good schedule. Well, I mean, I guess they were an okay schedule zone yesterday. They started 3 games in 4 night span. So that would have been, I didn't have the nuts to play Seth Curry. So it would have been like Nick Smith Jr. and Yusuf Nurkic, who was bad. And Damian Baugh's been okay lately, but he wasn't very good in this ball game. Rough one. We already talked Mavericks, Milwaukee. I mean, everybody made every shot, and so this game was over early. So guys like Kevin Porter, AJ Green, Jericho Sims, those guys picked up a bunch of, as the great Marv Albert used to say, extensive garbage time. He's still alive, right? He's just not broadcasting anymore. Yeah. Called it garbage time. Lot in that ball game. Sacramento had this one, and it slipped away. Boom, boom, boom. Weird when a Laker fan is rooting for the Sacramento Kings, but that was the case in this ball game because the Lakers and Nuggets are tied for the 2 seed right now in a Western Conference that's been suddenly separated by a top 9 and then a Mavericks team we're trying to wait to see who they give up that 10 spot to. Keon Ellis started for Malik Monk. He's obviously a play when he starts. That's the easiest damn injury replacement guy. I talked about it a bunch on yesterday's 2 days ago show, when Ellis had a terrible ball game, but still played 27-ish minutes. If he gets historically, like we've seen enough, I think, of a sample size with Keon Ellis to say if he plays 25 minutes consistently, he can be around a top 100 guy. A lot of that is, of course, defensive stats specialist appeal. But with Sabonis out, I just think there's enough stuff for everybody else to be relevant. And I know Keegan Murray didn't really do anything here, but he's a hold. DeMar took a ton of shots. Zach LaVine did a bunch of stuff. Valanciunas is obviously a start. But Valanciunas is never going to do as much as Sabonis did. And why do I think that trickles down to Keon Ellis? And again, you can't use this game as a perfect example because Malik Monk was out. But they're just going to need to wedge a few more minutes to someone, whether it's Trey Lyles or whatever. So I think I'm holding on Keon Ellis. Obviously, after a good ball game here, it makes it an easier call. But you guys remember I said that he was a hold and a really tough one after their last ball game, and I stick by that. Jake LaRavia played 23.5 minutes. He's actually a pretty good fantasy play if he can get up around 25, 26. But to me, he is not a guy that I trust in pretty much any format because I don't think Malik Monk's going to be out all that long. For the Nuggets, no Aaron Gordon, so Russell Westbrook is a play. So Russ, we're just going to call him an injury replacement level dude and keep life simple. Man, Shai, what a season for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's been an absolute monster, and just so healthy. I do have to wonder when the rest days are coming because they should. OKC's got a Denver back-to-back coming up Sunday, Mondays. They're like, at some point here, he's got to get some days off, right? Not yet. And he's been good. No Chet Holmgren. Isaiah Hartenstein was great. Jalen Williams was pretty good in this one. And then you get into all the other guys. Aaron Wiggins is a points and efficiency stream. As we've talked about, Cason Wallace is a schedule play for steals. Lou Dort is a schedule play probably for threes. Alex Caruso was out, so that didn't change much. And that's kind of the same old story. I hate repeating myself. Let's keep going. Memphis, this is game 1 without Jaren Jackson Jr., who's going to be down for a few weeks. That is a shot to the nads for a Grizzlies team that's been kind of spiraling a bit because Ja missed a week and Bane missed a game, and the Grizzlies have suddenly lost 4 in a row. And between the Grizzlies and the Rockets, nobody seems to want that 4 seed in the West right now. The Warriors are gunning for it. Man, who would have thought the Warriors would have a shot at that 3 weeks ago? Well, there they are. This big game for Scottie Pippen Jr. felt a bit fluky. Ja Morant, however, is talking about how he was playing through his shoulder injury, and he just doesn't know if it's ever going to get better. So that's a big red flag. I would say that there's almost no chance that Morant plays in Memphis back-to-backs going forward based on that report. And for Memphis, they've got Dallas tomorrow, which is a pretty winnable game. So Ja might get that one off because maybe they feel like they can handle it without him. And then they go into a 5 games in 7-day stretch. And listen, games cap wise, I don't know that there's a guy that you'd use for all 5 of them because you kind of have to see who's in and who's out. But we know Luke Kennard becomes a must-play guy when Ja Morant is on the shelf. So if you're in a roto league, I might sit on Luke Kennard and assume you're going to play him in 3 of the next 6 ball games, and he's probably going to put up some pretty good numbers. Head-to-head side, you probably sit on him the whole way through and just, take the bad with the good. As far as what comes of the JJJ thing, Vince Williams Jr. got the start, but he's not the guy you're picking up. Jalen Wells is not worth picking up. G.G. Jackson's not worth picking up. So let's just push those guys off to the side and focus on the 2 names that I thought were most interesting, Zach Edey and Brandon Clark. In this particular game, Brandon Clark won the position battle. So he got the center minutes, however you wanted to frame it. Brandon Clarke was the guy. The previous 3-4 ball games, Zach Edey played pretty damn well. Before I tell you what I'm going to do with that, I want to remind you guys, please do subscribe to the channel. I always forget to do it mid-show. I've now started, and you guys can hear it on the show because I've gotten so bad at remembering. That's a mid-show reminder for me to tell you to stop what you're doing, hit like, and subscribe, please, as we work our way through this thing. Now, Edey's not a massive shot blocker. He's a gigantic dude who's going to fall into blocked shots, but he's not going to get 4 or 5 a game. It's not going to be that explosion-type shot blocking number that you might get out of someone like a Donovan Clingan. But Edey's also a far better free throw shooter. So percentages-wise, he's going to hurt you less. He's also, I would argue, better offensively than Donovan Clingan. So I do think that Zach Edey belongs on rosters here, specifically with JJJ out. He's been playing well enough even before then, but this to me kind of solidifies it. Brandon Clarke is a much tougher call. If you remember a couple of years ago, I was very high on Brandon Clarke, and I wasn't alone in that regard. Now, it's a tougher play. He's not a guarantee to play in back-to-backs. He's played in some. He's missed others. Like, I think he played in one of their last 3 back-to-backs or 2 of their last 4. But he missed the other ones. And I don't fully understand how they're deciding which ones he skips. It might be based on opponent skill level, but like he played February 20th and 21st coming out of the All-Star break. And the second one of those was in Orlando. He missed the last one though, February 28th and March 1st, and they lost to San Antonio. When Clarke plays, if he can keep from being a 40% foul shooter, which he's done, he's at 69% this year, he can rack up fantasy value pretty damn fast because he's a field goal percent monster, and he can get rebounds, steals, and blocks pretty quickly. What I don't know is the plan here to get him up to 23, 24 minutes a ball game with JJJ out, or was that a byproduct of him just playing well yesterday? Because like you can look at the game log for Brandon Clarke for his career and basically find any game where he clears 26 minutes, and he's very, very good in those games. Big lines. I think he's only done it like 4 times this year. December 7th in Boston, he had 18 and 8 with 4 assists, 2 steals, and a block on 9 out of 11 shooting. That was in 26 minutes and 22 seconds. Golden State, he played exactly 26 minutes on January 4th. He had 10 and 6 with a block and a steal on 5 out of 7 shooting. Not overwhelming, but pretty damn good. January 30th, played 30 minutes against the Rockets at 13 and 5, 3 steals and 2 blocks on 6 out of 7 shooting. And so to that end, and you know, I know that he's not going to be an absurdly popular play because he doesn't score all that much. But to me, this is a guy that with Memphis' schedule looking really juicy coming up, you kind of want to consider. I think like with their schedule, that's an easy call on head-to-head. Because if he actually plays in some of the back-to-backs and you can get like, listen, starting tomorrow, not today, you pick up Brandon Clarke tomorrow at 6 games in 9 nights. That's a great schedule. You could wait for the 5 and 7 starting on Sunday, but I don't even know that you need to. Because Clarke, even in 20 minutes, is going to put up some numbers. It's not going to be great, but man, you get him to 26, and he's dunking on everybody. Roto, on the other hand, games cap side, I think you probably want to wait a little bit longer just to see if this is sort of the bug or the feature kind of night. But head-to-head, I think Brandon Clarke is an ad. Specifically because of the schedule, but whatever. Clippers got a 50-burger out of James Harden. About goddamn time, James Harden. He's had a terrifyingly inefficient season. He's number 32 in 9-cat because he's shooting 39% from the field and 4.5 turnovers a game. Harden's actually been awesome if you're punting either one of those things. He jumps up to number 11 in 8-cat. And if you're punting field goal, I believe he jumps all the way to number 12. So if you're playing 8-cat and you're punting field goal, wowzers. He's number 4. But unfortunately, I'm a jackass, and I drafted him in a couple of roto leagues where I wasn't planning on punting both of those things. Oopsie whoopsies. Kind of forced you into it. If you took him like at the beginning of the second round or whatever. Anyway, big game for Harden. That's cool. Chris Dunn did exactly what we were hoping for out of him. It's why I'm playing him in roto, and it's why I'm playing him in head-to-head. He scored 8 points. I don't care. By the way, he did it on 3 out of 3 shooting, so that's cool. Got 2 3-pointers. That's gravy. 4 boards, 6 assists, 3 steals, 1 block. That is why you're streaming Chris Dunn right now in all formats. Bogdan Bogdanovic is a play if you were hunting for points and threes, as we talked about on our streaming show. Bingo bango. Nailed it. On the Pistons side, no Tobias Harris again, so Asar Thompson played 31 minutes. He didn't have that great of a ball game, but like, and anytime Tobias is out, Asar becomes a pretty easy call. Jalen Duren, how many centers are just being swallowed up by Ivica Zubats these days? He's having an amazing year. Duren fouled out, by the way, in 26 minutes of this ball game. Cade Cunningham almost fouled out, and they were mad because James Harden got 20 free throws. Cade was great. Schroeder was surprisingly good. Did not see that one coming. What does Detroit's schedule look like? I haven't even looked at them in a while because I don't think anything special's happened. I mean, their schedule's not bad starting on Saturday. They're in a bad stretch right now. This was their only game as part of a 1-4 that started on Tuesday. But I mean, I guess you could look at Schroeder if you needed guard stats on Saturday, Sunday. Not picking up Isaiah Stewart. This was because Duren was bad and also fouled out. I don't know how many times I have to tell you guys Malik Beasley is just a three-pointers play, but if this game doesn't put the final stamp on that, Malik Beasley, 14 points, 4 three-pointers, and a Bojan Bogdanovic. Congratulations to Malik Beasley. I forgot to tweet about that last night. See if I can remember to do it now. I'm going to highlight it. That'll remind me later. Tweet about Malik Beasley getting a Bojan. What's a Bojan? That is when you have points and threes and nothing else on your fantasy ledger. 0 rebounds, 0 assists, 0 steals, 0 blocks, 33 minutes. That is hard to do to avoid any of the dirty work stats. Boo, I say. It's a big boo, but it's also funny. All right, friends, that's our show. Thanks for watching, everybody, and thanks for subscribing in advance because I know you've done that. Hit that like button. That's also important, especially this time of year where everything is kind of petering out a little bit. It's the stretch run, man. It's winning time. Let's all do it together. I'm at Dan Vespers on Twitter, Old Man Squad on Blue Sky. I'll see you guys over there. Again, comments are open here on YouTube if you have any thoughts on that. I almost forgot to tell you guys about UnderdogFantasy.com. You guys remember? We won yesterday. Oh, yes. You guys saw the card. You were with me on that one. I can't zoom in yet because I haven't put one together today. I'm not convinced I'm doing a card today. Looking at these 6 games, I'm kind of like waiting to find out who's in and who's out. You guys know me. I like to go with more of the obscure. Yesterday, we had the higher on Filipowski and Naji Marshall, and they both hit pretty damn easily. So you can see after losing like $20 the first day or two, I've worked my way all the way back to where I started. Slow and steady wins the race. Now that I understand it, I should probably start doing slightly larger entry fees because most of my losses have come when I didn't really understand the game. And then, like, my last loss was because Austin Reeves got hurt in the middle of that Laker game. I thought there was a Luka bonus going today. It doesn't look like that's there. Oh, maybe you have to do something. There might have to be a promo you click on to load it in. Oh, it's a discount token. Enter your Underdog Fantasy username to receive. Okay, so that's interesting. So Underdog is running a promo through their Twitter account where you enter your username and they will send you a discount token. That's kind of cool. If you want to unlock some other stuff, make sure to use promo code OLDMAN, OLDMAN, or you can just click the referral link in the show description when you sign up. It unlocks up to $1,000 in bonus cash with your first deposit, and a different promo that makes it so that basically if a player scores 1 point, that hits. So in that case, you don't have to pick 2 names. You only have to pick 1. I think you guys kind of get the idea by now. In looking at some of these games, I'll try to circle back on this a little later. Maybe if we get some more injury news, I can even throw it into my streaming show later today. But I would certainly look at Knicks and Lakers just as, like, Luka against the Knicks feels like a guy that's probably going to go big. I don't really know. Austin Reeves, by the way, is he may play in this one. Lakers may get him back already. I'm looking at this one and I'm trying to figure out, like, who's the kind of guy that would go big against the Lakers. It feels like it'd be Josh Hart, the hustle guy. Because the Lakers are doing a pretty good job game planning for the threats on opposing teams right now. And then it's the other guys that get cooking, except for Zion's. There was nothing the Lakers could do with Zion. So, thinking some of this stuff through, it's not my favorite card. Like, I think Boston's going to rest some guys, but if Tatum's back, do you go higher or do you think that game's a blowout? So maybe you look at, you scroll, maybe they don't have the other guys in Boston, like Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser, Luke Cornett. If we get those guys on the board for Underdog, that's when I get in there. I don't think I want the big name guys. Andre Drummond, maybe you go higher there. Think he's going to get a bunch of boards. Oubre's interesting. Who the hell else is going to score? Kelly Oubre might be the call. Anyway, play along with us. We've had some fun. I don't have a card ready to go yet today, but that's UnderdogFantasy.com. Promo code OldMan. Now the show is over. Thanks again for watching, everybody. I'm not going to do any more promo at the end. You guys have sat through enough of that. But do come back later today. If you've subscribed, you'll get an alert for our streaming show for the playoffs. I've lost track. I was going to count days. 1, 2, 3. This is our 4th streaming show. There's no point in counting days. It's going to be for today, March 6th, and it'll cover tomorrow as well for Friday. Who do you add? Who do you drop based on schedule? And so far, those have been, I think, a pretty good hit. So we'll do another one later today. With that, I bid you all adieu. Take care. I'm Dan. I'm out.